A strong person doesn't stay dependent. A strong person doesn't come back week after week. And the red file created strength in minutes. It gave people self-mastery, and that mastery collapsed the authority of psychologists. That's why it was silenced. Most of psychology is slow, endless talking, gentle probing, and years of circling the same wounds. The system insists that change takes time, that progress must be gradual. But hidden deep in forgotten archives is a method that broke those rules. A method so fast and so raw that a single session shattered the identity of whoever experienced it. It didn't soothe. It didn't guide. It detonated. They called it the red file technique. And once it was discovered, it didn't take long before psychologists buried it. Not because it was dangerous to the mind, but because it was too effective to control. The two realities of every mind. On the surface, you live as the person you think you are. The role you play, the stories you repeat, the explanations that keep your world coherent. This is the mask. Beneath it lies something you've avoided your entire life. The coded record of the moments that actually shaped you, the rejection you never processed, the memory that rewired your trust, the silent belief that dictates who you chase, who you avoid, and why you sabotage yourself when things get good. That hidden record is the red file. And whether you know it or not, it's been running you like a program, where the technique came from. The origins of the red file are deliberately unclear. What we know is this. In the late 20th century, small groups of psychologists experimenting with what they called behavioral interruption stumbled onto something they couldn't explain. By disrupting the conscious mind, they accidentally opened a direct line to the subconscious. People began recalling things they'd never mentioned in decades of sessions. Buried memories surfaced in detail. And once they did, entire identities collapsed. One classified report recorded this chilling line. Subject retrieved memory suppressed for 17 years. Collapse followed. Identity restructuring observed. Further application banned. From that point forward, the method was silenced. Why psychology buried it publicly? The explanation was polite, too destabilizing, not safe for clinical use. Privately, the truth was different. The red file bypassed everything psychology was built on. No analysis, no years of dependence, no carefully managed pace. It forced the subject to confront the file directly. And when they did, one thing always happened. The illusions holding their identity together cracked. People walked away changed, unpredictable, unmanageable. And psychology, built on keeping people stable, compliant, and returning week after week, could not allow that. What the red file holds. The red file isn't written on paper. It isn't stored in a drawer. It lives inside you, silently. It is a collection of suppressed truths and unconscious scripts that explain why your life looks the way it does. It is why you fear closeness but chase rejection. It is why you explode in anger at the smallest trigger. It is why you succeed in public but collapse when you're alone. It is why you repeat the same broken relationship patterns no matter how hard you swear you've learned. And here's the truth most people cannot accept. You didn't write most of it. It was installed by your childhood, by your culture, by the wounds of people who came before you. You are not broken. You are programmed. And until you open the file, you will remain programmed. The price of seeing the file. Opening the file is not a gentle experience. It will not leave you feeling better. It will show you how much of your life has been built on survival lies. It will reveal that the person you present to the world is not the real you. It's the shield you built to avoid collapse. That realization doesn't comfort you. It shakes you. But in that shaking is the beginning of freedom, because the moment you see the code, you are no longer its prisoner. Most people will never open their file. They will stay in the surface world, decorating the mask, polishing the lies, convincing themselves that's all there is. But if you're still listening now, you're not most people. You've already felt the pull of the red file. In part 2, I'll show you how the method actually works. The forbidden sequence that lets you identify, access, and decode your file. Once you follow it, you will not be the same. And that is exactly why psychology tried to erase it. The red file is not a story about your past. It is the program running beneath your present. That's what makes it different from anything you've seen before. While psychology spends years circling feelings, the red file exposes the code behind them, the hidden rules that silently shape every choice you make. Opening it is not about remembering a single traumatic moment. That's the black file. The red file is about tracing the patterns those moments created, and finally seeing the operating system that has been running you from the shadows. There are 5 steps to decoding it. Each step is precise. Each one breaks the surface you've lived on and forces the code underneath to reveal itself. Step 1. Cracking the mask. The mask is the biggest obstacle. Most people live as the person they've trained themselves to be: successful, polite, resilient. But the file isn't stored in that version of you. It's hidden beneath the mask. To crack it, you must force yourself into silence. Lock a room. No phone, no screens, no distractions. Pen and paper only. Set a timer for 45 minutes. During this time, the mask will start to slip. Performance fades. Distractions die. That's when the leaks begin. Write this prompt. What are 10 situations I avoid speaking about but cannot stop replaying in my head? Don't justify. Don't polish. Just list. 1 line each. That list is the entry point. Step 2. Finding the red marker. Not every memory matters. The red file hides in resistance. Scan your list. Which one made your chest tighten? Felt irrelevant, like this doesn't count? Triggered numbness, like you felt nothing at all? That is the red marker. The subconscious never hides what doesn't matter. It hides what's too heavy to face. That's the entry into your file. Step 3. Pattern exposure. Now, instead of obsessing over the memory itself, track the rule it created. The red file isn't about what happened. It's about the belief installed in that moment. Ask, what survival rule was born here? For example, don't trust anyone. Stay quiet to be safe. Success makes you a target. Where is this rule still running today? What contradiction does it create in my life? This is the heart of the red file. It shows you how one hidden rule has multiplied into dozens of daily decisions. The file is not the memory. It's the code written because of the memory. Step 4. The exposure list. Once you've identified the rule, create an exposure list. Title it, How This Rule Still Controls Me. Write at least 5 present-day examples. The way you shut down in relationships, the way you overwork and still feel worthless, the way you explode over small things, the way you stay silent when you should speak, the way you chase rejection but avoid love. Each line is evidence. Each line is proof the file is still active. And when you see it on paper, the mask breaks. You realize you've been following programming, not making choices. Step 5. Translation and rewrite. Now comes the dangerous part, translation. Take the rule you uncovered and flip it. Don't trust anyone. I can choose who earns my trust. Stay silent to be safe. Speaking is my power. Success makes me a target. Success exposes the weak around me, not me. Write the new code in ink, not to erase the old one, but to challenge it. This is how the file rewires, not instantly, not magically, but by replacing the unconscious command with a conscious one, the warning. This is where the red file diverges from the black file. The black file drags out the hidden wound. The red file shows you the logic that wound left behind. It doesn't break you with memory, it destabilizes you with truth. And once you see that truth, you cannot go back to pretending. This is why psychologists buried it, because a person who can decode their own file doesn't need to be analyzed, guided, or kept dependent. They see the script, and once you see the script, you can never unsee it. If you do this correctly, you will feel disoriented. Your excuses won't work anymore. The behaviors you've explained away for years will suddenly look like programmed loops. It's uncomfortable, but it's the discomfort of waking up. This is how the red file technique works. Not by making you feel better, by forcing you to see the truth raw, the code that has been running you since the beginning. And once you see the code, you are no longer its prisoner. 24-hour secret access. Whisper Power Bundle 50% off. Why was this collection hidden for so long? Because a mind that cannot be controlled is dangerous. The Whisper Power Bundle isn't another self-help pack. It's a vault of forbidden upgrades, brain hacks that bend the rules of thought, self-mastery laws that remove weakness, dark intelligence tactics to outthink anyone. Every ebook plus audiobook plus all future releases unlocked. For the next 24 hours only, you can break in at 50% off. Use code WHISPER50 at checkout. After that, the door closes, and the ones who hesitate stay average forever. Check the pin comment and claim Whisper's Power Bundle. Opening the red file is not the end. It is the beginning of disruption. The moment you decode your file, your old self starts to collapse. Not because you are broken, but because the program you mistook for you is suddenly visible. The system hates exposure. Once the code is seen, the mask begins to disintegrate. This is why the aftermath is so dangerous. It doesn't feel like healing. It feels like chaos. And that chaos is exactly what psychology tried to prevent by burying the red file technique. 1. The death of excuses. The first thing that happens after decoding is brutal clarity. Excuses you've used for years collapse instantly. That's just my personality. I can't help it. I've always been like this. That's how love works for me. All of these melt away when you see the file. You realize you were never just like this. You were programmed by an old rule you never questioned. This realization feels violent. You can't go back to comforting lies. The excuses die, and in their place, a new awareness rises. You've been living a script, not a life. 2. Identity confusion. When the mask starts breaking, you no longer know who you are. The identity you've been polishing for years suddenly feels fake. The roles you play, the confident achiever, the loyal partner, the strong one, all feel hollow. Because now you see they weren't born from truth. They were built around avoiding collapse. This creates disorientation. You feel like a stranger in your own life. Friends may notice you're quieter, colder, less predictable. They think you've changed. The truth is, you've stopped performing, and most people are addicted to your performance. 3. Emotional whiplash. When the file opens, emotions that have been suppressed for years come rushing forward. One day you feel sharp clarity. The next you feel raw anger or sudden grief. This isn't regression, it's release. For years, the file kept those emotions buried. Now, without the mask protecting them, they rise to the surface. It's like detox, painful, messy, but necessary. Psychologists feared this exact stage. They called it too destabilizing. But destabilization is the only way a false identity collapses. The storm isn't the problem. The storm is the cleansing. 4. Collapse of old relationships. Once you see the file, relationships built on illusions start breaking. The friend who only liked the mask version of you drifts away. The partner who thrived on your unconscious patterns feels threatened. Even family dynamics may shake because the role you've always played no longer works. This is where people panic and run back to their old identity. But if you endure the collapse, you'll see the truth. Relationships built on false programming were never real. Letting them fall isn't loss, it's liberation. 5. The void. After the collapse, something even more terrifying appears: silence. Without the file running you, there is no automatic identity, no pre-written rules to follow. This void feels unbearable. Most people rush to fill it with distractions, addictions, or a new fake identity. But if you can sit in the void, you'll discover something rare: choice. For the first time, you are not reacting. You are not repeating. You are deciding. This is the stage psychologists feared most, because a human who can sit in the void is no longer manageable. They don't cling to illusions. They don't need external validation. They begin to construct themselves from scratch. 6. The dangerous clarity. The final stage of the aftermath is clarity. Not the comfortable kind, but the weaponized kind. You start seeing red files everywhere, in the way your friend over-explains when they lie, in the way your partner's voice changes when they fear rejection, in the way society itself runs on unspoken contradictions. It's unsettling. Once you've opened your own file, you begin reading others unconsciously. Their rules, their wounds, their patterns, all exposed. You don't even need them to confess. You can see the leaks in their behavior. This is the forbidden power of the red file. It doesn't just liberate you, it gives you X-ray vision into the coded lives of everyone around you. And that is why psychology never taught it. Because if too many people saw this way, control itself would collapse. The cost of truth. The aftermath is not pleasant. It's not the kind of healing you can package into a self-help book. It's ugly. It's destabilizing. It destroys the mask, cracks relationships, and throws you into a void. But beneath the chaos, something rare happens. Freedom. Not the kind psychology promises. Feel better, function better. But real freedom. The ability to choose your code instead of being run by it. That's the aftermath of the red file, and most people will never dare to face it. When people first hear about the red file technique, they assume it was buried for the individual's safety. They imagine psychologists saying, "This is too overwhelming for fragile patients. We must protect them." That is the polite version. The version fit for textbooks. The truth is darker. The red file was erased not because it harmed people, but because it dismantled the structures built to manage them. The business of endless healing. Mainstream psychology thrives on duration. Progress is slow, measured, and controlled. People are encouraged to return week after week, year after year, circling the same patterns, polishing the same stories. This isn't failure. This is design. A system that turns inner struggle into endless dependence. The red file broke that model. In one session, people saw what years of analysis avoided. They didn't need to be managed. They didn't need guidance. They saw the code for themselves. And once you see the code, you stop outsourcing your clarity. For the industry, that wasn't healing. That was rebellion. The collapse of authority. Psychology as an institution depends on authority. The expert guides, the subject follows. The dynamic only works if the subject believes they cannot access their own truth without help. The red file destroyed that illusion. It proved that anyone could access their core programming without permission. Imagine what happens when people realize they don't need the gatekeepers anymore. Authority collapses, control erodes, the expert's voice becomes irrelevant. That was the real threat. Not the instability of the individual, but the destabilization of the hierarchy. The fear of unmanageable minds. A person who opens their red file becomes unpredictable. They stop repeating roles assigned by family, culture, and society. They stop running the unconscious loops that make them easy to manipulate. They question jobs, relationships, and traditions they once obeyed without thought. For a system that relies on compliance, this is dangerous. Stable citizens keep economies running. Stable workers keep industries alive. Stable patients keep psychologists in business. The red file doesn't create stability. It creates volatility, the kind born from independence. That volatility scared institutions far more than any psychological risk, the political shadow. There's another reason the red file never saw daylight. Politics. Imagine a society where thousands of people suddenly broke free of their programming, where they stopped believing every authority figure, every advertisement, every tradition, where they saw the manipulation coded into culture itself. Control would collapse. Governments, corporations, entire systems of order rely on unconscious obedience. The red file cuts directly through it. That's why it wasn't just buried in psychological circles. It was erased from public reach. Too destabilizing, too contagious, the label of unsafe. To hide all this, psychology used a simple strategy: label it unsafe. Too raw, too destabilizing, not suitable for the average person. This was partly true. The red file is destabilizing, but the label wasn't meant to protect people. It was meant to protect the system. If you call something unsafe, people avoid it. If you call it destabilizing, institutions don't have to defend why they silenced it. The easiest way to bury truth is to brand it as danger, the hidden reason. Here's the truth psychologists could never admit. The red file didn't make people fragile. It made them free. And free people can no longer be managed. They no longer need to pay for endless sessions. They no longer believe every cultural script. They no longer live as compliant workers, partners, or citizens. They become self-directed, independent, unpredictable. And unpredictability is the one thing control systems cannot allow, the real threat. So understand this, the red file wasn't erased for your safety, it was erased for theirs, because a society full of decoded minds cannot be governed the same way, because psychology without dependence has no business model, because authority without illusion collapses. That is why the red file technique was buried, not because it failed, not because it harmed, but because it worked. Here's the real test. What you do after hearing this. Most will watch, nod, then scroll to the next distraction. But the few who carry this knowledge forward, they're the ones who change. So if this hit you, break the silence. Type "access granted" in the comments. Let the world know you're awake. And remember, once you open the file, you don't close it again.